So, Uber's trying to do some behind-the-scenes door dealing to prevent AB5 from being signed. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and the day is coming up to when we are going to find out whether AB5 is signed into law and whether or not drivers cease to become independent contractors and whether or not they become employees. We don't know exactly how it's going to go. I sense that the bill will be signed. I think there are too many drivers who are soured by Uber. They don't like what they're getting paid. They don't like the way they're being treated. And you know what? Even if they have to give up some flexibility potentially, they will give it up if they will get paid just a little bit better. However, apparently Uber is pulling a Hail Mary pass. They are pulling a Hail Mary pass and they are doing some behind the scenes dealings and meetings with unionization companies, well, unions basically, just unions, to try and avoid AB5 being signed into law. And in some cases, they're doing it without the driver's knowledge. However, before we talk about any of that, let's have a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, I'm Jonathan with gigworker.com, and we've been commissioned to conduct a survey by an insurance company that's getting ready to put out a new insurance product specifically for Uber and Lyft drivers. But they want to get some information from drivers that will help them tweak the insurance so it really fits our needs. So I wanted to invite you to participate in the survey because they're going to use your answers to help them design the cheapest Uber and Lyft insurance available. Not only will it be cheaper, but it will cover a lot more, like lost wages when you can't work because your car is in the shop. Think about that. So if you're an Uber or Lyft driver, would you take about 5 minutes to complete the survey? Kevin said he'll leave a link down below in the description. If you could click on that at the end of the video, that would be great.
So according to Recode, although I'm also reading this on Vox, it's Vox Recode, it's something like that. I don't know. I'll include the link below. So it says, secret meetings between Uber and labor unions are causing an uproar as they should. So tensions are surging as Uber and Lyft scramble to cut a deal to escape California's crackdown on the gig economy. Both ride-hailing companies are in talks with labor unions to create a loophole to block their drivers from getting employee rights granted by California Supreme Court, according to the New York Times, angering drivers and pitting labor unions against each other. Yeah, obviously something like this would do that. Both ride-hailing companies are in talks with labor... Oh, sorry, read that already. Last year, the court ruled that workers in the gig economy should get many of the same protections that all employees get, like a minimum wage and overtime pay. Last month, the state assembly passed a bill to guarantee those rights and expand them. AB5 would make it harder for companies to label workers as independent contractors instead of employees, a common practice that has allowed businesses to skirt state and federal labor laws. By the way, notice the wording there, folks. It says it would make it harder for companies to label workers as independent contractors, not impossible. However, Uber and Lyft really don't want to pay the added cost of hiring drivers as employees instead of independent contractors. They probably also don't want to give up some of the restrictions that they have on you. Both firms reportedly have been meeting with the Service Employees International Union to support an amendment to exempt them from complying with the bill, which is headed to the California Senate for a vote at the end of the summer. In exchange, Uber and Lyft executives say they would give drivers some benefits and would pay a union to advocate for drivers. As you can see, nothing in there about payment. News of the backroom deal has further incensed ride-hail drivers in Los Angeles who helped organize a strike in May for higher pay and union rights. So here's what Rideshare Drivers United LA said. Good to hear from them again, by the way. We won't work with any union that's in talks with Uber and Lyft to accept money from them and limit our full rights as employees. We represent the direct voice of the drivers who want and deserve better. Collective bargaining and a seat at the table. Gavin Newsom should know this. So, yeah. It should be noted that Rideshare Drivers United isn't quite a union. They're just a lobbying organization. That's where this starts getting a little tricky. Because it does feel kind of like the unions are kind of butting in, if you will, to what the drivers want. I do believe the drivers do want representation. I believe to a certain extent the drivers want a union. However, I'm sure the drivers would want to pick their own union. They would want to pick their own representatives. And you know what? If there is are unions out there who are coming in and they are basically working with Uber and Lyft, telling them, hey, we can suggest this and this so that we can create a loophole so that you don't have to classify your drivers as independent contractors. I think that's incredibly sketchy. That to me sounds like Uber and Lyft are picking the union that's going to represent you. Like they're picking their people to represent you, which is not how this should work. You should pick the union that you want to represent you. And they are going to avoid the wrath of this bill, and they're going to say, hey, go through our people and you can negotiate. However, our people basically works for Uber and Lyft and will not care about the drivers. That's the whole issue with the arbitration. When people want to sue Uber and Lyft, it goes into arbitration. The people who arbitrate, who, mediate, whatever you want to call it. I know, this is where the sorry, folks, flipping a lot here. Whoever oversees that, they're working for Uber and Lyft. They're not working for you. That's why drivers pretty much never get justice from these companies. Let's continue. The news has also triggered a rift among labor groups in the states, the Times reports. Many union officials who support the bill says drivers don't need to compromise because the courts already ruled in favor of gig workers. This is true. Labor leaders at SEIU disputed reports of a backroom deal, telling the Times that the union supports AB 5 and full employee status for drivers. Each twist and turn in the feud over AB 5 is being watched closely. The bill is one of the biggest challenges yet to the ride-hailing companies' business models and would rewrite the rules of the entire gig economy. Hundreds of thousands of independent contractors in California, ranging from Uber and Amazon drivers to manicurists and exotic dancers, would likely become employees under the bill. So yeah, this actually does affect more than just rideshare people. The small status change is huge. That small status change is huge. These workers would suddenly get labor protections and benefits that all employees get, such as unemployment insurance, healthcare subsidies, and paid parental leave, overtime pay, workers' compensation, and a guaranteed $12 minimum hourly wage. It also means companies are fuming about the added cost, Uber and Lyft especially, because as we read in their little, S1 filing reports, especially from Lyft, they can't afford minimum wage. And again, that should say more about not only the company, but that says a lot about the drivers, because if they can't afford minimum wage and they've got hundreds of thousands of drivers on the road, that means most of those drivers are not making minimum wage. Mic drop. I actually have a mic right here, but I'm using it to record, so we're not going to drop it. Anyway, while Uber and Lyft have been quietly lobbying behind the scenes for an exemption to AB 5 for the past few months, including enlisting drivers to help, which there's going to be a rally next Tuesday, and I think I'll be able to make it. No promises, but I think I can make it. They've also been begging in public for a compromise. Uber and Lyft want to keep treating drivers as contractors, and in exchange, they promise to set a minimum pay rate for drivers while they're picking up and dropping off passengers, to create a company-backed fund for benefits like paid time off, and to establish an association for drivers who advocate for further improvements. Uber, Lyft, I'm just going to say this one more time. Just say it one more time. This really isn't as difficult as you're trying to make it out to be. The drivers just want one thing. They want to go back to making over $1 a mile. They want to go back to making over 30 cents a minute. And they want to only have a 20% commission on your part. They don't want 60 cents a mile. They don't want benefits. They don't want you taking 60 to 70% of their fare. They want what they had before, which is roughly $1.75 a mile, 30 cents a minute. That's what they want. That's all you have to offer them, and they will totally support you. Of course, even if you offered it at this point in time, I don't think they would trust you enough that you would actually keep it around. So here's the thing. In a San Francisco Chronicle op-ed published last month, Uber CEO Dara Khosrowshahi and Lyft co-founders Logan Green and John Zimmer argued against the bill, suggesting that drivers would no longer have the flexibility to make their own schedules if they became employees. Probably not, however, they could still remain independent contractors. You just have to give up a lot of restrictions. Like, you'd probably have to let them charge how much they'd want to charge for the rides. You'd also have to take away this whole deactivation policy thing. That you can do it, you just don't want to. It's also no secret that a change to the employment classification of rideshare drivers would pose a risk to our business, but it's equally true that the status quo can and should be improved, they wrote. The op-ed has angered drivers and labor advocates, so has another Uber strategy, using the apps to get drivers to oppose the bill. Yeah, This is what we've been talking about for like a week now. Tell lawmakers to protect driver flexibility read the message that Uber began sending to drivers in mid-June, without mentioning the bill or how it might change the employee status. And now that labor unions are making deals with without their input, drivers who have been organizing in recent months are even more furious. Hey, look, here's Nicole Moore. He's like, why then? Why give away driver rights? Maybe to get access to drivers through the company driver apps? That's how NYC's IDG justifies their company union. That makes no sense. We figured out how to build a drivers union without selling drivers in. I'm mad. Selling out the future of labor for easy access to workers, we would live with a driver exemption on driver rights or a third worker category without less rights for generations. But we don't need to. We can win this. This is cynical, selfish, and non-strategic move. So there you go. It's impossible to know exactly how many drivers support AB5, but at least 385,000 Uber drivers in California and Massachusetts sued the company, claiming they are employees, not contractors. The battle between drivers and ride-hailing executives show no sign of cooling off, and so much is at stake. The outcome has the potential to reshape or disrupt an explosive business model championed by Silicon Valley and exported to the world. So here's all this information that is frankly old news, so we will not go over it. However, this does not surprise. Of course, it doesn't surprise me. Like, nothing this company does surprises me anymore. They are feeling the heat. They are feeling the heat, and they are doing anything they can to keep what they have going. I mean, for God's sakes, they asked people to sign a petition. A petition. By the way, getting over 300,000 signers is not exactly a small feat. I mean, that's a good chunk of people. However, again, a lot of people have stated that they feel like they were forced to sign the bill. Like, not the bill, the petition. Because it was in their app, they thought it was just part of the terms of service. Some people couldn't read English very well. So that number could be disputed. This is why if you want to oppose Uber, you should really show up on Tuesday. I am going to do the best I can. There are some things I do have to work out. I cannot promise that. But I will try my darn hardest to get there. And I will oppose Uber opposing this bill. And here's the thing. I personally think, dream scenario, the bill fails and Uber and Lyft realize that they dodged a bullet and they get back to the drawing board and they treat us better. But that's not going to happen. I mean, heck, they were cutting rates and prices while they're asking for our help. They can clearly not be trusted in any of this. So, yeah. You know, if you're concerned, write to Governor Newsom. Tell him to sign the bill. Tell him your concerns. That's the best way to do it. Call his office. They represent you, right? So anyway, that's where we're going to leave this. This is continuing to get more and more fascinating the longer this goes on. We are about a week away from finding out what exactly is going to happen, what the day of reckoning will bring, and I will be covering it every step of the way. Anyway, what says you? Are you going to be protesting this bill? Are you going to be protesting Uber? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly. You get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices get you just a little bit down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want more content from me, check out Kevin T. Rodriguez and the Apptrepreneur Vlogs channels. They're different from what we have here. However, you might still enjoy them nonetheless. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow rideshare drivers, check us out at Facebook on the Apptrepreneur Hangouts. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.